Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Soul of Business with Blaine Bartlett. I am your host, Blaine Bartlett, and I am absolutely thrilled today to have my guest join us. This is somebody I've known for, oh, goodness gracious, about 10 years now, at least. Right in, well, a little bit more than that, actually. Coming up on 15, I think, thereabouts. Shelly Lefkoe. I first met her in the Transformational Leadership Council that I'm a member of, and she's a member of, and her late husband was a member of. And this is a collection of individuals that are fascinating. And I say fascinating because Shelly certainly is included in that description. The thought leaders, movie producers, authors, captains of industry, just some of the most phenomenal people you will ever meet. And the focus of everything that we do within the TLC, the Transformational Leadership Council, is how do we actually use leadership as a mechanism to enhance the quality of life on the planet. And that's kind of my take on it. We use it through business, but we also do it in our personal lives. We've got families that we lead. We've got communities that we lead. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have Shelly on. She's got a new book coming out called Hitting the Wall, Eliminating the Beliefs That Sabotage Your Business and Your Life. And it's coming out August 29th is when it drops. And we're going to talk about that book. We're also going to talk about just kind of what led up to the book. And mostly we're going to talk about whatever Shelly and I find to talk about. So Shelly Lefkoe, I want to welcome you to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, my darling. It's great to be here.
I start off these interviews, these conversations. They're not really interviews, conversations, usually with a question. When you hear the term "the soul of business," what does that bring up for you?
I love it, love it, love it. It actually brings up two things. I think that as transformational leaders, one of the things I think is incredibly important. It's like the first time I heard compassionate capitalism, I went, I'm in love, So the soul of business to me is to do things with heart, with integrity, to honor each other as humans, and to always enter into business with not only your highest good, but the person that you're dealing with's highest good as well. And the second thing it brings up for me, Blaine, is I talk a lot about watering all the plants. And so if your business has soul, the rest of your life has to have soul. There's a lot of workaholics, a lot of people who put 100% of themselves into their business. And I always say, if you had a lot of plants in the house, you would never water just one. Obviously, the rest would die. And so we have a lot of plants. We have our romantic relationships. We have our friendships. We have our health and our bodies to take care of. We have our children. We have leisure activities. I always say I play pickleball at least once a day for my soul, because if my soul is good, I could bring my soul into everything I do. So the soul of business for me brings up, how is the rest of your life? Are you bringing your soul into all the areas of your life? Are you watering all the plants?
I love that metaphor, watering all the plants. When I talk about soul, I reference oftentimes Carl Jung's notion of it, and also ancient Greek. That force that moves to and through something, that looks for expression, and it uses the physical material world as the mechanism by which that spirit or that soul gets expressed in its unique fashion, incredibly unique fashion. You've worked with over, a couple 100,000 people over the course of your career. And the idea of, here's where I want to go with this question. I was in a conversation with a student of mine yesterday, actually, and he said something. It was just kind of a drive-by comment in the course of the conversation. And what he mentioned, or what he said, was, and this was in the framing of leaders. He said, I want to be a light. I want to be a light for my people. And
Mm.
I said, well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. So, well, in order for there to be light, something has to burn. And I went, whoa, okay. What do you what do you think in the work that you do? Because all of your work is organized around bringing that soul expression out. Yeah, in
Mhm.
family systems, with individuals and businesses that you work with. Using that metaphor, something has to burn in order for light to shine. What is it that you actually work with your clients with that ends up burning, quote unquote, away, such that there is more
Ah,
light?
I love that. I love that, Blaine. It's everything. So it's such a great um, metaphor, actually, for everything, because so people generally come to me and they have everyday problems, whether it's procrastination. In business, very often it's imposter syndrome. I work with CEOs of, I always love this, that so many people have a fear of public speaking. It's the number one
Mhm.
fear in the country. Um, and then, and I say, well, when is your fear the worst? And they say, oh, when there's a C-level person in the room. And then, my next session is with a C-level person. And he goes, I have 3,000 employees and I'm doing a speech next week and I'm terrified. And I said, you do know that they all get terrified. He goes, I know, I know. So whether it's imposter syndrome, procrastination, whether it's being in loveless or sexless marriages, whether it's not expressing yourself fully, what I find and have found for 35 years is that it is our mostly unconscious beliefs that determine, that actually cause those patterns. And I love what you're talking about. And it's such a great conversation, because if you're procrastinating, you're not, your light's not burning because you can't do what you want to do. You can't be
Yeah.
a full expression of yourself. If you're in a loveless relationship, your light's not burning because you are, again, you're not, anytime these issues dim your light, so you're not it's not burning. So I have a passion, as you well know, to have people, the mission of our company is to have people live as the unlimited possibilities that they are. So the first thing I want to do is back up for a second. So a belief, when we started 35 years ago, people used to say, what do you mean you eliminate beliefs? Like religious beliefs? Now everybody knows you can't make change if you don't change your beliefs.
Right.
So a belief is a statement about reality that we hold as the truth.
Yep.
So it's not, it's, I believe this is the right way to do it, right? So our beliefs, by definition, are limitations, because
Mhm.
if this is true, this is not true,
Yep.
right? So underlying all of our patterns are these beliefs. So I had a belief, which is very, very, very common. What makes me good enough? So I'm not good enough, which everybody pretty much has. What makes me good enough is having other people think well of me. So that stopped me from being my authentic self, because I would walk away going, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Am I wearing the right thing? Does he like me? Does she like me? I always tease your wife, and I said, you're the one that got away. And I would walk away going, oh my God, did she get upset? Does she think I'm going to steal her husband? So it was this constant voice, right? When that belief went away, as it does in one session, I was able to speak in Croatia in front of 600 people and be my authentic self. And my focus is on them. It's not on me anymore. I'm not worried about what people think. So
Yeah.
there's a freedom. So my light can burn brightly because I don't have that stop anymore.
I love this,
So I,
Shelley. Yeah, just the notion of authenticity, and I'm glad that we kind of came to that point. I've played with authenticity. I do a program for the American Association for Physician Leaders, or Physician Leadership, and I've led that program for 12 years now. We started out in partnership with Harvard on it, and the program is called Leadership Authenticity. And for the first 2 years that I was leading that program, yeah, I wrestled with how do I actually define authenticity. I went to Kierkegaard, I went to Heidegger, Jung. I had all kinds of classic definitions of authenticity. And where I landed, and it's very consistent with what you're talking about here, authenticity is what I'm left with when I stop trying to manage your perception of me. And
mm,
when I get to that point, it's kind of like I get to show up at that point. And
I love that. I will write it down later.
feel free to steal it,
I
borrow, steal, modify.
authenticity is when I
But
stop trying to
that's where the power is, though, is in authenticity. Will Schutz, who you may be familiar with, Dr. Will Schutz, he was a contemporary of Carl Rogers, contemporary of Fritz Perls. I was with Will years ago in an encounter group. Yeah, he was kind of the father of encounter groups, he and Fritz. And we were talking one night, and one night, it was probably about 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, what is this? What is this fixation on vulnerability? Because that's really where, encounter groups were really organized, was just be vulnerable, get open, throw the kimono open. And he said, Blaine, you've got to understand that the only way that people truly connect is through vulnerability. If there's a facade in the way, there's no place for them to actually access who you are. And that's kind of what led into that definition of authenticity. So, and that's scary as hell for people to be that vulnerable, because you talk about the imposter syndrome. How do you work with your leaders, the ones that you're actually working with, to mitigate the incredible gravity that our society has around looking good, being perfect, doing it right? Particularly as a leader, you have to have the answers. How do you work with
Yeah.
folks? Because I know how I do, and I've got a hunch that there's some similarities, but I'm real curious about what the differences might be.
Yeah. So we have a process, and basically, so I do some coaching, my entrepreneurs, I will coach a little bit, but basically, I look at, let's assume you have a belief. As a leader, I have to know all the answers. Well, where did that come from? So the first thing we do is we go back to the source of where beliefs were formed. So self-esteem beliefs are always formed in childhood.
Yeah.
Business beliefs might be your first job or things your father told you. I had, interestingly enough, I just had a client who called me many years ago, and he said he wanted to start his own business, but his father used to say to him, a job is secure, a business is dangerous, right? So he always had the belief being an entrepreneur was dangerous. And of course, his father had a bad experience, lost everything, all that. And so we went back to his childhood where the belief was formed. He got rid of the belief, and he called me 15 years later and he said, Shelly, I need you. I said, what's up? And he said, well, my business is worth, I can't remember, $60 million. He wanted to buy out his partner, and he had stuff about that. So with vulnerability or having all the answers, most of us who are old enough to be leaders, were in schools that when you didn't know the right answer, they just went, oh no, that's wrong. There was never, let's engage, or maybe that's true, but what else is possible? It was so about right answers. And the first thing, today, Siri has all the answers. Having the answers is the booby prize. I mean, that's not a skill anymore. AI, ChatGPT knows all the answers. But to be creative, to empower others. So when we get rid of the belief that we have to have all the answers, the business leaders that I work with learn how to empower the people who work for them by allowing them to contribute. Because my belief is that all people want to do is contribute. Underneath everything, everybody wants to contribute. That's what feels juicy when you make a difference. And as a leader, you don't have to know all the answers. You have to know how to ask great questions. You have to know how to use your resources, which is the people who work for you. One of my heroes is Richard Branson, because Richard Branson says, I love to, and I know you've spent time with him, I love to start new businesses. I don't like to run them. So I hire smart people to run my businesses.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to know all the answers. So when you get rid of, here's the thing about getting rid of beliefs. It's not that the opposite is true. So here's a box. In this box, I have to know all the answers. Empowering people and ask is not a possibility. When you get rid of the boxes or the beliefs, possibilities exist that you can choose from. If you have a belief, people can't be trusted. I have to do everything myself. You're not going to be a good leader. You're just not. And you cannot trust people. You'll micromanage people. You'll do a lot of things. But to just say, take it and run, and let me know how it turns out, is not a possibility. So it keeps you small.
That box metaphor, I use that a lot, and there's ways that we're going to work with people, or that I work with people, and and I love these distinctions that you're making here. One question I've got for you here, eliminating a belief. Nature abhors a vacuum. So what backfills when that belief is eliminated?
That is, I just got that because people have said that to me. That's a belief. I never saw that before. Nature abhors a vacuum is a belief, because if you're sitting in possibility and there's no anything there, then you choose possibilities. So let me say two things. The reason that our beliefs stay with us through 10 years of therapy and 40 personal growth courses, you can do a lot of work on yourself and learn how to cope with your issues. When you eliminate your beliefs, there's no issues to cope with.
Bingo.
And here's the secret, okay? This is not going to sound powerful, but when you do it, it is. We think we see our beliefs in the world. So when I say to people, and I had this client this morning, and she just kept saying, but I did see it. I saw that I wasn't good enough. If you were there, you would have seen it too. Now, you can't not believe something you think you saw. So if I said to you, if somebody said to you, Blaine, Shelly's a blonde, right? You'd say, no, she's a redhead. And they'd say, no, she's a blonde. You'd say, no, I know Shelly. I saw her this morning, right? So you can't, it's impossible to not believe something you think you saw. So if you grew up really poor, so I have this client who's very successful and he's obsessed with making money. He can't have enough. He just has to make more and more. He doesn't know his kids. His wife's ready to divorce him, but he has to keep making money because he has the belief that money is scarce and hard to get, and it will be taken away from you at any moment, because obviously that's what happened to his parents. But if you grow up, you watch your parents struggling with money. How are we going to pay the bills? And they're stressed. And every child alive asks why all day long. Why are my parents struggling like this? Oh, I see. Life is hard. Money is scarce and hard to get. And it feels like I saw that. You saw your parents struggling.
Mhm.
You saw them talk about money. You saw them not be able to pay the bills. But money is scarce and hard to get wasn't out there, that was in here.
Right. That's exactly where it is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
telling somebody, oh, your beliefs are in your head, or writing it on a piece of paper and ripping it up, or all the things that people do. And I want to say one other thing. Information and motivation can be powerful. However, it is not how you make change. Most people go to business books, they get MBAs, they get more degrees, and they learn more, and they listen, and nothing changes. How many of you have ever walked out of a workshop that you went, that was fabulous, that was so good, and 3 days later, nothing's changed and the notes are in the drawer? Because if you have a belief, two of the most common beliefs people have, and I don't care how many business books you read, mistakes and failures are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if I make a mistake or fail, I'll be rejected or I'll look stupid. Those beliefs will keep you small
Yep.
and stuck
Yep.
no matter what. And that's why all this great information that's out there is not utilizable if you have beliefs in the way.
Right.
One
Now,
last thing.
one last thing here. We're going to take a
Go
break.
ahead.
I've
Go
got
ahead.
no. Go ahead. You got one more thing to say here.
Okay, one last thing. Workaholism, right? So, Blaine, you and I were talking about watering all the plants,
Right.
right? So, we have a plant called our business, and we water it, and it grows, and it's strong, and we're working and working and working. But what happens to your relationships with your spouse or your significant other or your children? What happens to your free leisure time? You get to the end of your life and you worked yourself to death. Here's the belief: I'm not good enough. I'm not important. Now we got a beach ball in our faces. Nobody wants that. How do we hold the beach ball down? Well, what makes me good enough are my achievements,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you got acknowledged for as a kid: scoring goals, getting A's. So you say, what makes me good enough are my achievements. Now I got to hold this beach ball underwater or it comes up in my face, right? So that's workaholism. And even if I had a client who was he owned a financial company, and he said, Shelly, I'm worth $10 million. He said, I'm on the cover of business publications. When is it going to be enough?
Yep.
I said, never.
Never.
Because it's never going to make you good enough, and it's never going to make you important.
Yeah.
It'll make you feel that way for a few minutes, but you have to keep doing it.
Yeah. See, folks, I hope you're really listening to this, because this is exactly what we're talking about when we're looking at the soul of business, the soul of life. I mean, if you look at nature for me is probably the greatest teacher I've ever had. And frequent listeners to the show have heard me say this. But in nature, there are no mistakes. Yeah, everything in nature
Mm.
is good enough. Everything in nature is enough. I mean, all of this stuff just kind of we this is the great tragedy of Western civilization. As we have moved, as we've grown, as we've expanded, as we moved into cities and urbanized ourselves, concrete became a natural resource. And we got disassociated from the touch of the earth. Most people don't have a clue what the source of their drinking water is. It comes out of the tap. But what's the font? Where does it come from? I sit here on this island and I look across the Puget Sound here in Seattle, and I can see the Kitsap Peninsula and the Olympic Mountains in the distance. Now I'm on an island. My water comes from the Olympic Mountains. It comes through the aquifer
Mm.
under the Puget Sound, and it comes up, and I've got a well here. I'm very clear about that source, and I care about that source. It nourishes me. And so my attention is around nature and its lessons. We're going to come back in a minute here. We're going to take a real quick break. When I come back, I want to talk about hitting the walls. Okay? Because when we start moving with beliefs, I mean, that box that you were referencing, that's a wall that people bounce into. So we're going to talk about just kind of how you manage to kind of eliminate the beliefs that sabotage your business and your life, which is the tagline of hitting the wall. Okay, folks, we'll be right back talking to Shelly Lefkoe, co-founder of the Lefkoe Institute. Stay tuned. The nature of life is evidenced in nature. Nature grows, and all of nature honors the desire to be more, to have more, and to do more. Life thrives when it's allowed to grow. And ideally, thriving is what we also, all of us, want to be able to do. Unfortunately, at some stage in life, most people find themselves settling into what I can only call a rut. And a rut is nothing more than a coffin with the ends kicked out. You want to quickly get out of any rut that you find yourself in. When you stop growing, that's when the coffin starts to appear. You know, the simple truth is this, and this is true for everything in nature. You're going to die. I'm going to die. Every one of us dies. So the question we need to come to grips with is not, are we going to die? The question nature asks us to answer is, are we truly living? That's what motivation is about. It's the desire to move. It's the desire to grow and to excel. Have I lived? How have I lived? I'd love for you to take advantage of my Leadership Mindset Masterclass. It's all about providing you with the tools to ensure thriving for yourself and for those around you. Register today to receive the free introduction video and find out more about this acclaimed program. You'll also receive a copy of my international #1 bestseller, Compassionate Capitalism, A Journey to the Soul of Business. I'm Blaine Bartlett, and I look forward to helping you thrive. Welcome back. Just before we took a break, I was talking to Shelly about her new book, or I'd mentioned her new book just before we took the break, Hitting the Wall. It's coming out August 29th. And the idea here has to do, and I love the metaphor of wall, in this context, because when I start trying to expand where I'm at, to growth, growth is uncomfortable by definition. Growth moves me into territory I've never been. And, when I was an adolescent, when I was, growing up, growing pains. My grandparents would talk about growing pains. My mom would talk about growing pains. And it was physically, I'm growing, and it hurt. It ached. So growth is oftentimes accompanied by discomfort. It doesn't have to be pain, but it's discomfort, unfamiliarity, all of that sort of thing. So people tend to be, in my experience, averse to hitting the wall. They will almost do anything in their power to remain comfortable, to not have to confront that wall that is between them and what they say they'd like to have. So talk to me a little bit, talk to the audience, if you would, Shelly, about just kind of how this book came into be. I know it's basically an embodiment of your work, but what's the nature of it, and where do you go with it? How do you actually use what's there?
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting, Blaine, how it came to be. So I want to back up. So I have always been a people person, right? When I saw Morty do this process right after he created it,
Morty was your late husband.
I just had this.
Yeah.
Thank you, my late husband. I watched him, and it literally almost knocked me off my chair. It was this spiritual experience. And I said, that's why I'm on this planet, to do this work. You put any person in front of me, I'm good. I don't care if it's the King of England. Run a business, shoot me in the head. I didn't know the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet when he died. I thought I was going to starve to death. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. Now, here's the interesting thing about this, how it happened. So I'm speaking at A-Fest, a friend of ours,
Yep.
Mind Valley, Vishen Lakiani, has this thing called A-Fest. And Marty and I
Awesome.
were speakers. It was a week
Awesome
before
fest.
he died. Yeah, that was a placeholder. That was never a
No.
thing. Awesomeness Fest. It's such a Vishen thing, though. So so I'm doing this talk, and afterwards, this guy who's a serial entrepreneur, he owns a law firm, he's an attorney, and an entertainment company, and who knows what else. And he is service oriented. He works with kids. He's a philanthropist. He's an unbelievable guy. I don't know if you've ever met him. He came to TLC a couple of times. His name is Vahanya Premian.
Oh, yes.
And
Vahanya. Yes. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
comes over to me and he says to me, "That's it. Now I know why my clients don't listen to me." Because he works with entrepreneurs and he goes, "I give them great advice." He said, "They say they're going to take it and they don't," which is what my husband's experience was when he was a consultant. So he says, "I want to write a book. It's beliefs. It's beliefs." And he goes, "I want to write a book with you." And I said, I'm not, I don't have time to write a book. I have a business, I have a practice, we have products and so blah, blah, blah. He goes, "No, no, we'll get somebody to help us write it, but we're writing a book." So I end up writing this book with him about entrepreneurship, which is really
Who would
very
have thunk?
interesting. Who would have thunk, right? But it's not a book about how to become a successful entrepreneur, like an MBA course. It's how to get out of the way when you hit the wall. And the wall is, I want to start a business, I'm not starting. Or the wall is, I got the product, but I'm not launching. Or the wall is, I launched the product, but I'm not improving it. So every step of the way in your business, you hit these walls. And I love what you said about change. People get comfortable and they're afraid. And for me, Blaine, one of the things, and everybody listening, you really have to look at, if you think you don't have the belief, mistakes and failures are bad, stop and ask yourself this question. Imagine you start a project and it just fails, it's a complete bust. Do you say to yourself, "Way to go,
Yep.
that was a great learning opportunity"?
Most people
Or
do.
do you beat yourself up?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
beat themselves up. "Oh God, I'm so stupid. I failed. My father was right. I'll never amount to anything." And you go down the tubes.
Yeah.
And so these beliefs will get you every time you hit that wall. You'll
You know,
quit instead of just go, "Okay, let's try
okay.
another project."
It is what it is. Harvest the good, carry on. Forgive all the rest. When COVID hit in March of 2020, really kind of came to the forefront. Cynthia, my wife, and I, we were down in Marina Del Rey. That's where we'd been living in the LA area. And we've got this place up here on the island, on Whidbey Island. And we moved up here. Now, what was interesting was I had never done anything. My entire career was based on face-to-face consulting, and I was all over the world with it. We had offices in 5 countries. We had done, all kind overnight. Literally in a 2-week span, 98% of my book of business disappeared. It just disappeared. Hundreds of thousands of dollars just whoop. But wow, that's interesting. And I actually started laughing. And yeah, it was kind of like, excuse the French here, but yeah, we were so low that whale ship looked like clouds. Kind of some sort of a thing. And I was kind of going, well, it can't get any worse. So why don't we just have some fun with this? I wrote a book, started a mastermind program that I'd never done that. I just started experimenting. Some of it worked. We did a Black Swan event with a fella. just to kind of cut my teeth on, virtual and I had a ball. I had a ball failing. I actually had an absolute wonderful time not succeeding in the traditional sense. And it ended up, opening up all kinds of possibilities.
Possibilities.
The I'm one of the programs I'm doing right now. I won't even talk about that. But I'll launch it with this group that I'm working with by saying this thing. We're going to go on a journey. We're going to be going into territory we've never been before. So I want you to imagine traveling, and you're going to be taking a trip. You're going to be going, and I will reference this. Cynthia and I right now are going to, we're going to Dubai, then we're going to be going to Kenya, and then we're going to go to Frankfurt, and then I've got to go to Tokyo. So it's a long trip. And I can pack for that, and I can pack everything. I can put the tuxedo in there. It's kind of like, but I'm going to be schlepping through airports carrying a whole load of stuff that I don't want to be a Sherpa. And my bag load is going to be small compared to Cynthia's if we both kind of did that. And I looked at that and I thought, okay, here's the metaphor. You're going to be on this trip going into unknown territory. What's in your baggage? What can you let go of? What do you need to pack? What can you pick up along the way? But what are some of the things in that bag? Well, some of those things in those bags are mostly organized around your beliefs. And if you're moving into unknown territory, it's going to serve you well to not carry those beliefs with you into this new territory. Stories that you have about what you can and can't do, stories about who they are that you're supposed to be interacting with. Take those stories, set them aside. New experience, just enter it new. And notice what happens. You can always pick something up along the way that informs what you're doing. But this notion of carrying baggage, and you and I both have heard that phrase a lot. Get rid of the baggage that you're carrying. I'd like to close on this with this. The baggage that you're, when you're working with the clients, and working with just people in general, what's your take on the ways that people can actually come to a realization that letting go of what's in the suitcase is healthy?
Yeah. So first of all, I love the metaphor with the what are you carrying? I think that's really great. Because I go a lot of places. When I go to Hawaii to see my daughter, I go with a carry-on for 3 weeks. It's just like, I don't believe I need a lot in Hawaii. But I want to give your audience a takeaway, which I'm going to take a little bit of a minute to explain. But I'm not I don't subscribe to the insight. So like, oh, I had an insight. Now I could let go of my baggage. Sometimes, but not at will. I think when you get rid of beliefs, it's an intentional, I'm going to give your audience an opportunity, if it's okay with you, a free gift to just
Please.
go and eliminate a belief for free at eliminatebeliefs.com. And you can eliminate one of the 3 most common beliefs. But here's what you can do in the moment. Okay, I'm going to make an assertion and then I'm going to say something that will, blow your minds, and then I'll explain it. So the assertion is all of our feelings come from the meaning we give events. Okay, so when you fail, and your business disappears, most people go, oh my God, I'm going to starve to death. And that's the meaning, right? Now that comes from your beliefs, but we're not going to talk about that for a minute. We're going to just talk about the meaning. Blaine gave it the meaning. What's possible? We can find out. We can have fun with this. So how his behavior was impacted by the meaning he gave the events, not the events. Because 3 people could go through the same thing and have 3 completely different experiences. Many years ago, we had a big house. My late husband had first created this process. We had bought this big house in Westport, Connecticut, and blah, 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 and a swimming pool and everything. And the market crashed and we made some stupid mistakes with money and we lost everything. We went bankrupt. And one day he walks into the house and I'm crying and he says, honey, what's wrong? And I said, what's wrong? We are losing everything. What do you mean, what's wrong? He said, first of all, we're not losing everything. We have each other. We have our family. He said, second of all, I want to ask you a question. If we had to live on an island and eat coconuts, would we be okay? Could we be happy? And I looked at him and it was just like, yes. And he said, so what are you crying about? And the meaning he gave the events was what you gave, that, okay, let's see what's next. Now, obviously, we're not going to live on an island and eat coconuts, but who knows? Let's see what's next, right? I gave it the meaning, we're going to starve to death. So events have no inherent meaning. So another way of saying that is we don't know anything for sure because something happens. Okay? I'm going to make this short, but you'll get it. My husband died. Consequences? Absolutely. I miss him. I have to support myself. A lot of consequences. But the fact that he died doesn't mean I'll never be happy again, or I'll never love again, or I'm going to starve to death. My business is doing 3 to 4 times what it did when he was alive. So the fact that I didn't know how to run a business didn't mean I couldn't, right? So in your businesses or in your life, anytime you have a negative emotion, stop and ask yourself, what just happened? What meaning did I give what happened? Come up with one other possible meaning and then get that the events have no meaning. I didn't get the account. I didn't get on the Today Show. I didn't, whatever it was that was supposed to happen. What meaning does it have? And notice the meaning is in your mind.
Yes.
Always. Meaning comes from your mind. Meaning is never in the events. So that's a takeaway.
Yep, I love that. Where can people find out more about you and your process and also the book? I'm assuming the book's in the regular places, or will be in the regular places.
Yeah, the book will be in the regular places, Amazon, of course.
Yeah.
So you can go to eliminatebeliefs.com and eliminate a belief for free. And then if you're interested in more, it's Lefkoe, L-E-F as in Frank, K-O-E, institute.com.
Beautiful. Folks, been listening to the amazing and wonderful and gorgeous and beautiful and vivacious Shelly Lefkoe, great friend, very wise, very astute, and a lot of fun. Check her out. Check out the website. Take advantage of the free gift that she's offering. I think you're going to be absolutely thrilled with it. And Shelly, I just want to thank you, truly from the bottom of my heart. It's been a wonderful conversation. I love playing with you, always have. And I look forward to the next time we get together. And Cynthia, by the way, sends her best wishes to you. She knew that we were going to be talking today. So,
my angel from heaven, Cynthia.
There you go.
I love you both.
You bet. This is Blaine Bartlett. You've been listening to The Soul of Business with Blaine Bartlett. Check out my website at blainebartlett.com. We've got a lot of resources there. Most of them are for free. That'll point you in directions where you can get all kinds of other stuff that aren't free, but that's okay too. Okay, so we will see you on the next episode. As a parting gift here, my advice is to find ways to continue to be a center of distribution in your life, not a center of accumulation. There's nothing in nature that serves as a center of accumulation. You want to give things away, folks. Have a great life. Have a great day. Have a great week. Take care. Bye.